Hello everybody and welcome back to Grand Prestige League season number 6. We're here this time with the World Elite Championship round 1 here at Monza. Monza is a very historic track. We've seen a lot of excellent racing here over the years. So just to give a little bit of information about the track, it is 3.6 miles around, or 5.793 kilometers, and it has some of the most famous corners known to man. The original version of this track also used to have an oval connected to it, known as the Temple of Speed. This layout was used from 1922 to 1929. This version that we use has been in use since 2010, and it always provides good racing and usually some turn 1 chaos, because of the Prima Variante chicane is absolutely devastating. My name is Ruckus, and alongside me I have B23. How are you today, my friend?
How's it going? I'm doing excellent, and I'm super excited to finally have the actual season of Super Formula Racing kick off here at GPL. Everyone's been super highly anticipating it. We're here at Monza, one of my favorite tracks of all time, and we are absolutely going to see some fireworks. As this year, the grid looks super competitive with a bunch of new drivers and existing drivers that you already know of. And Whiteout's not on the grid too, so that should make it even more interesting as far as who we're going to see at the very top today.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, typically Whiteout was always like a surefire favorite to go ahead and win any race really, whether it's in Formula GT, GPL. Man is a menace. He's won 2 out of the last 4 races here at Monza. He didn't win last year's though, because last year, or I guess 2023, Illusion took the win. But he did win in 2022 and 2020. So we know Whiteout is very strong on this track. And so, speaking of Whiteout, I believe he's in chat now. Hey Whiteout, how you doing? Glad to have you here. So, do you have any bold predictions for today's race?
Any bold predictions? So, as I said in the preseason race, that I think that this is going to be a special year for Illusion. I kind of back Illusion, but even last year when it was all about Whiteout, Illusion in this track in particular had a super standout performance. He had pole position, led every lap, and won the race. I think he had fastest lap too, hit a grand slam, if not very close to one. So my prediction would be to see Illusion perform very well, probably win it. But then again, I'm not very familiar with how Whiplash would perform around here. Let's see who else. Yeah, so far on track, Whiplash are the other people to look out for.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, we've seen some really good performances. I do want to also point out some drivers that we didn't really get to see a lot of or see at all during the preseason stuff, like Foxhound Fennec. That's a new driver here racing with the FH squad. But also, we know how dominant Art Debris was during our preseason races to determine whether he's going to go into SWT or WEC. And, I mean, he basically got pole position and dominated both in Interlagos and Deep Force Raceway.
Yeah, that's right. And that was in a competition for all the drivers that were in the middle ground in between the two classes. And he was really dominant there. And so I wonder how that pace is going to translate when he's among all top field runners. But I'm assuming he's going to be pretty good, at least in the midfield, because that was a really strong performance.
Indeed, yeah. And, I mean, we may even see him rocking up to fight for a podium, because we do have some very rapid drivers like you're mentioning. Illusion obviously had a lot of success here last year. And overall, he is a favorite to have a really strong championship here, maybe even to win the whole thing this time around. We'll have to see how that goes. We also know Paco is extremely strong. It's weird not seeing him in a Scuderia Racing Force livery. Just throws me off a bit, but yeah, Paco. Yeah, new livery for him and new team.
Yeah, there have been some lineup shakeups too. A lot of people here have new teammates as well. EXO having a new teammate with Pixel being in the lineup. high caliber, has an all-new lineup this season with Declan, and recently just added Paco from Racing Force, as you said. And that is a really interesting lineup. They got all new liveries, too. I've been loving looking at all these liveries. I like pretty much every single one of them.
Yeah, and we know Paco is extremely strong. We know he is very rapid. He's good on his tires too, but also we have Boita, and we know Boita is the tire whisperer of GPL. We know
That's
that
right.
man can whisper tires like he gets paid to do it.
Yeah, and I think just based on the race distance and the tire wear that I've seen people report lately, that's going to be an extremely important element of today, especially as that front left can take a bit of a beating through corners like Curva Grande and especially Parabolica.
Oh yeah, I mean, you even got the two Lesmos to really think about too, because of those Lesmos, if you take that corner too fast, and you're going to be off into the gravel, and then that's just basically a good chunk of your race done. But also, the Prima Variante chicane, also known as the Turn 1 Death Chicane. That is going to be a talking point. It's always lap 1, Turn 1 chaos here at Monza. Regardless of what series you're in, what cars you're driving, it's almost always chaos in Turn 1 here. So it'll be interesting to see how everything plays out and who can keep their nose clean and just stay out of trouble.
Yeah, and I think Illusion is going to bestow the powers of the red flag on at least one of us, and so we're going to have to be very ready to throw that red flag for turn 1 on lap 1 here, because, yeah, there's usually some bowling happening into turn 1 when everyone's bunched up.
Oh, yeah. There always is. I mean, it's such a tight chicane, especially when you have a bunch of very hungry drivers ready to take a race win, or even just rocket up in the lead and then just try to play defense the entire time. So I mean, it is bowling central here. I mean, I know people mostly know Italy for, you know, Ferrari, Lamborghini. I'm trying to avoid throwing in very specific stereotypes, but honestly, this track is most famous for its bowling incidents in turn 1. So
absolutely, and there's a few people that we could watch. I think the prediction that everyone has for the bowling incident would be Alex, since he has the lowest sportsmanship rating in the lobby by quite a margin, but that's hopefully not too reflective of what we'll see into turn 1.
Oh yeah, indeed.
People were joking about that.
Oh, and then also Whiteout in chat is saying that Nuco had a torpedo incident in turn 1, so that's gonna be interesting.
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was, you know, that happened. It happens. You know, oftentimes it is just takes one driver not being cautious enough, but sometimes it can happen to the best of drivers too. Just, you know, it's a game of millimeters when it comes to corners like that. And
also something worth noting is that, like, sometimes it's not even your fault that you go bowling. You know, you hit your braking point just right, you give the car in front of you enough space. Can't say the same for the guy behind you. He hits the back of your car and just launches you into oblivion.
That's right. A lot of times people think the turn 1 incident is usually as a result of someone just being irresponsible and braking way too late, but sometimes it can happen if you brake too early as well. You have to be really perfect. And it's a little harder to judge the braking point too, because when you're coming off of the grid, it's a dead stop. So your braking point is different than it is for every single lap of the race that you got really used to. So that's why I think it causes a lot of confusion in there.
I was taking a bite of my breakfast because I'm having a late breakfast, and I come back and I see the Porsche of Alex spinning into a wall. That is, and we were just talking about his safety rating, and I mean, I haven't seen him race in a Super Formula car like at capacity yet. However, I did witness GT500 with this driver,
Yeah.
The turn one merchant.
Yeah.
We love you, Alex.
Oh, for sure. He is a great driver. He is really fast, and all respect to Alex. It's a good driver.
Indeed. So
it looks like we're getting qualifying started here.
Woo!
As everyone has given the indication that they are ready to start a quali session. And so it's the fast that prevails, and we'll start on pole position. And just to mention, too, the BMW team is supposed to be a lineup of Comer, but both of which are absent, and they got 2 reserves filling in Artura and Ducky Dono, both SWT drivers. So I'm very curious to see what kind of lap times put up in this top field, as well as what their race pace will look like compared to the top drivers.
yeah, it's going to be very interesting, to say the least. Like you said, you have some drivers reserving up a division compared to what they normally would race in. So that means we're going to see him twice, because we'll see him racing next week as well when we come back to Monza for SWT. So you'll definitely get a lot of Artura and Ducadono if you're fans of those drivers. That you're going to get a double dosage of it. So, who are you predicting for your top 3 for qualifying?
Top 3 for qualifying. You know, I want to have a good idea of where Nick Debris would be, but I'm just not quite sure. So I'd have to give it to Illusion, Whiplash, and who else? Either Boita or Nuko. I'll say Nuko. Yeah, so Illusion, Whiplash, Nuko is my top 3 prediction.
For me, I am going to go ahead and say, I think Illusion is going to get pole. He's been on fire as of late. I mean, we saw like the open qualifying, and he had some monstrous times up and down each session. So we know Illusion is extraordinarily quick. And then I'm going to have to say Nuko is going to get P2, I think. We know Nuko is extremely rapid. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw a wild prediction and say Yuki is going to go ahead and slip into P3 for qualifying.
Nice, I like it. That would be a really great result for Yuki. And Yuki is another one that's kind of an unknown. He did have a season last year in WEC, but he's been expected to take a really big jump up this season, and all throughout the season of FGT, his performance was just getting better and better and better. And in the couple of times we saw him in the GT500 too, his performances were up there like P3-ish type of range. And so we'll see if that can translate here now that it's a full grid of super competitive, super formula drivers.
Indeed, and I mean, I mean, that's just one thing. We always have like so much competition and so many competitive drivers that we had to split things into 2 divisions, and possibly even a 3rd division was on the cards. I don't believe that ever actually came to fruition, but still having 2 divisions with extremely competitive drivers in both is amazing for any league.
Yeah, and I say it all the time. I truly believe this is probably the most competitive league in Gran Turismo, especially for super formula racing in particular. Like, the competition is just so tough, and they're all so close together too. There's not like, you're not going to see people, I mean, barring some huge circumstances happening, you're not going to see people get lapped 2-3 times in a race like this.
Indeed.
Like I said, unless something crazy bad happens, but, you know.
Right. So, Nuko right now has pole position at the moment. He is 7 point, or my brain is not registering numbers correctly. He is 7/10 ahead of R Debris in P2. So very strong time for Nuko, a 1:26.056. And I mean, I saw some predictions in chat that were saying Nuko is actually going to get pole this time around. So I mean, I know you and I both have ranked Nuko pretty highly in terms of qualifying. Chat is also in agreement with that. So I think Nuco is going to have a really strong shot here. But even then, Monza is a really good track for overtaking. There's a lot of good spots to go in and try to make some very dicey moves. I mean, you got the straight leading up to Parabolica and then the straight immediately after Parabolica. We've even seen some really dangerous moves going into the Lesmos corners. So, yeah, I mean, this is a really easy track to overtake on.
Yeah, it's really good for battling Illusion on a purple lap here, too. But yeah, I think we might even be sleeping on Nuco a little bit, despite both of us putting him in our top 3 predictions, because he's just gone a whole season last year without having to tune his car. Yeah, Illusion does go pole position by 3/10. That's a great lap right there. But Nuco's big thing is tuning, and so now tuning is back. We might be seeing a new Nuco that we're not used to seeing from last season, where his performance is even better.
Yeah.
Boita in P2 was very close, less than a tenth away from pole position.
Yeah, we're seeing some really rapid times here from a lot of these drivers. And also, just another thing that I would like to note is some drivers can actually tune their cars more for specific sessions, right? So let's say some drivers may set their car up more for race pace, essentially, versus like qualifying pace. So while they may suffer a bit during the qualifying session, when they get to the actual race, their car is going to be super strong and they're going to have a lot more pace considering the people who only built their car to set a good qualifying time. Because while qualifying, yes, determines where you start, the race is won over several laps and not just the fastest lap.
Right, exactly. And that's definitely true. I don't know if any of these guys are running multiple setups, but I've even encountered instances where on very, very specific tracks where you need to mitigate risk over the race distance, but you can do a risky but faster setup for qualifying. Some people will go that way and have a qualifying specific setup as well as a race setup that they switch between mid-race, or in between sessions rather.
Yeah, I mean, that is very much possible. I know in some series, like pretty much once you have like a setup, you pretty much have to lock it in, park firme essentially. So maybe that's the case here. But I mean,
Yeah,
it would make sense.
Here. I believe you can change it whenever. And you can change pretty much anything as long as it doesn't affect the power output of the engine. You can change it.
Yeah, because I found out you can actually put anti-lag on these cars. So definitely don't do that. That is, as cool as it is, and makes your car sound nice, it's a violation of the rules. We don't want to see that. Alright, so hopping on board with Declan, one of the high caliber racing drivers. Currently sitting in P9 with a 1:27.215 as his best time. So about a second and a half away from Lusion, but he does have a good slipstream. Now slipstreams are very important here at Monza, just because this track has so many straight lines, and honestly, most of the straights here are pretty lengthy, so it's a bit of a far cry from tracks such as like Deep Forest. Although Deep Forest does have some very long straights, they're pretty much just like 2 major long straights in the entirety of the track. And then some of the other races that we're going to have on the calendar here. Spa is another one. They don't have, I mean, you do have a few good straights on Spa, but nothing like what we have here in Monza. So Declan will go ahead and move up to P8. He is only 400ths away from Flaring Aces in P8. I think he actually went back down to P9, so somebody else must have set a faster time as well. But yeah, your top 3 right now are Nuco, Lusion, and Boita.
Oh, Nuco, original pole, that's... Yeah, see, there's Nuco doing his thing just as predicted.
Yeah, I mean, it's excellent stuff there from the French driver driving for BMW. Actually, no, wait, I think that's the wrong team. Toyota, sorry. I saw the red, white, and blue, and my brain immediately went BMW.
Oh, yeah, there's a few with the red on. I also noticed that Mugen and Porsche have a kind of similar looking livery, but as well. But between each other.
Yeah, typically when I see like red, white, and blue, my brain immediately goes Porsche or BMW. Jesus.
Oh, and
But
Whiplash
yeah.
just hit a purple sector, sector 2. So Whiplash, down from 14, must not have a representative time on the board quite yet, but he's on a purple lap right now. A purple lap in the purple. And Foxhound Racing, or Foxhound Speed Group rather, is a new team on the grid, and we welcome them to GPL. Good to see them. Oh, P4. He must have lost out some on Parabolica there. I think he might have went a little wide at the exit, and that could ruin a lap easily.
Oh yeah, especially with Monza just being the way it is. It's not as tricky as, like, I'm just gonna go, even though we don't race on this track, but like, it's not the Nordschleife where, you know, it's super technical and super tricky. But all the same, if you make a mistake on Monza, that's basically your lap done and dusted, especially because of how aggressive some of the curves are, which could basically catapult you over some of these chicanes. And that is actually qualifying wrapped up as Whiplash becomes a Beyblade there, and not the Olympic Beyblades either, but he's in a wall, and that's actually qualifying done and dusted. Wow, that got snuck up on us. So
I saw,
our top three.
Nuco. Yeah, Nuco set a purple, and Illusion's on a purple too right now.
Yeah, so this is the final lap of qualifying, but he does go wide there in the Parabolica. I wonder if that lap time will count. Maybe. It looks like it will. So he'll go ahead and solidify his spot on pole position as it sits. But can anybody else respond? That is the question at hand. Illusion does have a tow from the car in front, which is one of the other Toyotas. This time it's the Toyota of Flaring Aces. But, I mean, if Illusion can go ahead and nail this Parabolica, then it's going to be an absolute dream for Illusion there and the XO AMR squad. We'll see if he goes. Does not improve his place or his time. And so our top three appears to be...
He lost out a little.
Yeah, our top three appears to be Nuco, Illusion, and Alex. So we got 2 out of 3, right?
Yeah, and Whiplash, 0 point... I mean, just look at how many drivers are super, super close with their lap times. We got a 0.03, the next gen driver 0.03, 0.01. Like, incredibly close qualifying session there. Maybe as close as I've ever seen. We're right back.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, it's just insanely tight stuff here in the WEC in one of our top category, or in our top category. So, I mean, it's one of the top racing leagues. First Super Formula in the entirety of Gran Turismo 7. And we actually have somebody in chat asking, how do we get involved in the league?
Yeah, so you can, if you go to the league Instagram page at Grand Prestige League, by anyone watching, go follow. You'll get updates on everything we got going on here. Go to Instagram at Grand Prestige League. There should be a link to the Discord for the league in the bio of that account. And in there, there's all the instructions that you would need to sign up. And I believe if that's Speed Freak from 2 seasons ago, he did race here in SWT a little bit for a few rounds. Actually as my teammate for a couple of those rounds. So yeah, you're definitely able to probably get back.
Yeah, I mean, we always welcome new drivers coming to the league. We've seen some really, new drivers pull out some really stellar performances. Either what was it, GT 500 or Super Formula, even the SF 500 race we did a couple of months back. And yes, you can go ahead and communicate with the league via Discord. Like my co-commentator said, you can go to our Instagram page at Grand Prestige League on Instagram, and then in the bio there is a Discord link. You can go ahead, join the Discord. We'd love to have you, and then our admins will go ahead and get you settled. Hopefully we'll see you on track someday.
Absolutely. And I'm just clarifying real quick because I forgot to. Okay, yeah. So Illusion has given me red flag powers. So don't be naughty into turn one, people, or we'll have to restart this race.
Yep. And also, just so we're going to give a little bit of extra information for everyone, I'm sure Illusion might say it during the race, or like right before we start, but like how Formula 1 does not have DRS until lap 2, you cannot use the overtake function on these cars until you hit lap 2. So, no overtake for lap 1, lap 2, fair game.
And a bit of a difference too from previous seasons is there's no required tire compound, which actually opens the strategy options all the way up. I think we're going to see all sorts of different strategies and tire combinations today.
Oh yeah, and I know one of our favorite things is we talk about a lot during these races, even back when we had like specific tire compounds, is just the strategy that we'd be seeing from these drivers. Like, all right, do we think he's going to go from hard to mediums or medium to hards, or or soft's going to get thrown in the mix? Now there's every tire within a game just thrown into the mix here. So we're going to go ahead and see. We're going to see some interesting tire strats.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious to see if there's going to be overcuts, undercuts, and these guys are really good on their strategies. But even when you don't see them right next to each other battling wheel to wheel for position, even when they're got several seconds apart from each other, they're paying attention to the tiny gaps and managing their tires so that they can get into these overcut and undercut windows. They're racing at all times. They're keeping each other in mind the whole time. Compound changer. Okay, yeah, so there's some clarifying questions in the comments, but other than that, people are giving their indications that they're ready to start this race.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun here at Monza. It's a fun track. I mean, obviously, the turn 1 bullying incident, as we see Yuki in game chat saying, good luck on turn 1. So, all tire strategy is allowed. You could go on a 0 stop, although we have 44 laps here, so good luck with getting a 0 stop. You could also, within the legality, you could run comfort tires. You could run comfort mediums, but I do not see how well that would work out for you, and I don't want to. I'll do that in private testing. But, yeah.
Yeah, I'm assuming hard tires aren't going to be good here. With the amount of understeer that you'd have, they're probably not viable. I doubt we'll see any hard runners, but then again, we did see a hard runner in the GT500, so I guess we'll see as this race is about to begin now.
All right, we're going to go ahead and get loaded in here. The final is starting. All right, we're going to be on track now. We're about to see those 5 red lights come on and then go out. And then we'll be underway with the season. As we just hear those inline 4s just revving to the max RPM. We saw those 5 red lights coming on. And Season 6 is underway. It's a good start there from Nuko as he goes ahead and tries to rocket up into P1. But here's the thing we gotta know. It is gonna be turn 1 shenanigans. Most certainly. So let's see if we all get through turn 1. So far, a little bit of bumping around. The Porsches get a little square there. But, there's a Toyota off in the distance. I believe there's quite a few cars going round and round.
Oh, man. So I was going to say that was clean enough, but then there was 2 more cars. So it's 4 cars that crashed. So I think we could call a red flag for 4 cars. What do you think?
That is up to you. You have the red flag power.
All right. I'm doing it. There were 4 cars involved in that. I think that's enough. Yeah, so sorry to the race organizers to have to go ahead and restart the as Yuki just throws himself off the track. Yeah. So everyone is going to be exiting the track, and we have to. It'll take a little minute in between because now they have to manually reset the grid order, but that should only take a minute or 2.
Yep, so just be patient with us. Just chat with each other in chat. Go ahead and just get to know one another if you don't already know each other. And just go ahead and have fun while we go ahead and get this lobby reset. So, here's a question I'm going to pose to you. What tire do you think we're going to see a lot of cars start on?
You know, oh, we could have got a little bit of insight. I just didn't even think to check. But I believe most of these guys are probably going to want to start on the medium tire. Track position is really important here, despite it being easy to battle here. Track position is still important because that dirty air is so devastating for trying to close the gap. But then again, the race distance is just so long that I think people are going to opt for the medium for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously we're not going to have any rain, so that's not something that will be on the drivers' minds, but it's going to be very interesting to see what happens here. I mean, we already saw chaos already in turn 1 with 4 cars getting taken out. I believe it was the Porsches, the Foxhounds, and I know Flaregason and the Toyota got sent to the ether, but it's a red flag, so it's all going to go ahead and get reset. And then we'll be back on the way.
Yeah, and you know what's funny too is that was actually one of the cleaner turn 1s at Monza that I've seen. Just about everyone got through it, but just right at the end, we saw a group going 4 wide there. It's just not big enough to go 4 wide, so Clearing Aces got pushed out on the gravel, spun out a little bit, and that made contact with another car. Caused a whole chain reaction, and then we had to red flag it. But other than that, it was actually really clean. I was really impressed seeing all the teammates going side by side, the old path going through there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised we didn't see more teammate on teammate collisions. Just because we know that can be a problem here at Monza, especially, you know, if you're 2 teammates really close to each other and really eager to prove yourself to your team, especially if you're on a brand new team, like Paco is. He's on a brand new squad compared to earlier seasons, and even earlier on in preseason testing, he was still running the Scuderia Racing Force machine, but now he's racing with high caliber, so he wants to prove himself to that team. So that might lead to some fireworks, but however, the #1 rule is just do not collide with your teammate.
Oh yeah, big time, big time. That's the last thing you want to do is take out 2 of your teams, like good position there. So yeah. So everyone indicating what position they were in. I feel like maybe they didn't have group shot ready to go.
They could always rewind and stream a bit too, I think.
Yeah, shout out to everyone in the chat watching and patiently waiting for us to get the action back going again. I had to call the red flag. I felt like it was right to give everyone a fair chance here. So appreciate you all for bearing with us as we're going to get the grid set.
Indeed. Oh, we might be going back. It might be back to green flag conditions.
Oh, excellent. All right. Looks like the grid is set and ready to get the action back going again. It wouldn't be Monza without a red flag at turn 1, though. We had to get at least one.
Yep.
Now, just because we called one and it takes a few minutes, I'm not afraid to call another one. So we might, we might have another one here.
Indeed. All right. So we're going to go back and go ahead and actually, I'll let you take this race start away.
All right. Sounds good. Get the spectating going. All right. Nuco from pole position. Illusion right behind. It was a good start the first time. We'll see what they can do this time. And the lights are out. It looks like a good launch from both the top 2 guys as they pull away a little bit from the rest of the group. They're wheel this time as they go into turn 1. We'll see if they make it through clean. Illusion on the inside, which turns into the outside. Oh boy, getting a little squirrely on his teammate there. As his teammate, that's not his teammate, but he's losing positions, Rick Debris is. And it looks like we got through there clean this time. That was really impressive stuff as some moves were made into turn one there. Now we got Gomez on Alex fighting Yuki on Ducky Dono. There's battles that are on the track right now. Rick Debris right behind Boita. Wanted to get that place right back. Yeah, Rick Debris actually quite fast at themes here in the top class as well. Oh, we got a driver off in the gravel. It's Flaring Aces, the Toyota. Yuki battling the Greek driver of Teo Iceman, who is the GRTJMG. We'll just call him Teo Iceman, as he is called in the Discord server.
Yeah, I mean, it was not the greatest of race starts there for Flaring Aces. We saw him drop around the order quite a bit. And we saw some cars getting a little bit wide going into the grass. I do think that Alex did collide with his teammate at some point, which led the Porsche to go down the order quite substantially. We're already seeing a few of those half-second penalties being given to drivers, as we see Boita in the Porsche challenging the Mugen of R Debris. He's going to go into turn number one. He decides to not force the issue because it is only lap 2 of 44. So this is good, clean racing for the most part. There's been a few incidents here and there, a little bit of contact between a few drivers, but overall this has been a pretty solid race in terms of just race pace and driving clean, as Alex is going to try to fire one around the outside of Yuki coming into the Lesmos. Is he going to get the move done? Yes, but he did take quite a bit of curb, so he might have a half-second penalty as a reward. But it looks like he may have got it, so we'll have to see if there's a penalty applied here in a short few minutes.
Yeah, there's penalties all over the place, especially, I mean, we got a new race leader in Illusion, and he's pulling a bit of a gap, but all three of the top drivers right behind him, Nuko and Whiplash battling here too. They all have 5-second penalties that they're about to serve right here. They come on straight right after Ascari, and so this should potentially mix the order up a little bit or allow the drivers behind to close. Yeah, it turns out it didn't mix the order up too much. These guys are just too fast.
Oh, but we see R Debris making a very strong overtake into the Parabolica, and that is an extraordinary move there from the Dutchman. He's got a very hard charging Nuko behind. Nuko is going to want that position back. He's going to go ahead and try to go around the outside, coming into Prima Variante. We'll see if he's going to get it. It's going to be who's going to be later on the brakes. R Debris has track position, and he's going to go ahead and just hold position through that corner. The Mugen machine remaining in P3 as it sits. But we know Nuko is going to go ahead and try to fire a response off. We're going to go ahead and see if there's anything that can be done. They get very close to touching there. And it looks like maybe we may see... no, but R Debris just has track position. And looks like he might have gotten into the gravel a little bit. Didn't look like it affected his time too much, though. But, I mean, excellent battles here up and down the grid so far.
This is excellent. Yeah, and I'm glad that we did that as a race with Ard dominating in the preseason, because he had no business being in any class other than this top class, as he's making wild moves on Nuko, our pole sitter, and now he has track position, and that section 2 is so hard to close back that gap up. Actually made him drop back into the clutches of Boita, who's putting pressure on Nuko now for that P4 position. Yeah,
I mean, excellent stuff there from R Debris. Debut driver, like this is his first full season debut. We first saw this driver in some of the preseason races that we did, our last chance qualifiers, where we did the doubleheader for sprints in both Interlagos and Deep Forest Raceway. Had an excellent performance there, dominated that race. Sprint he got pole and race victory in both events. And I mean, honestly,
Yuki battling.
He is just an excellent driver so far. But speaking of Yuki, yeah, Yuki is kind of in a sandwich right now. He's got Aces behind him and Iceman in front of him. But Yuki right now is doing good. He's keeping up right behind Iceman there, coming to the chicane that leads to the Lesmos. But yeah, he's going to make a move onto the Iceman. The Exo AMR machine making a move on the Mugen of Iceman.
Yeah, getting a little bit into the gravel on the exit there, but that's 2 positions in 2 corners, so excellent work from Yuki there. He is dropped down quite a bit from where we saw him early on in the race. Something must have happened, but he looks like he's on a charge as he is making up ground quickly. Now he's pushing to close the gap to Gomez, who is a very strong driver as we've seen. I'm not sure that there's going to be a big pace difference between these 2 drivers, but we'll have to see. The gap currently at 1.4, so we'll be monitoring that.
Indeed, yeah. And we know Paco is a very strong driver. We know he is rapid on his day. He's good on his tires. And that's honestly what you're going to need for the rest of this race. So it's very excellent stuff here. Darkadono has also just kind of kept his nose clean in the BMW machinery. I mean, just so far, keeping himself out of trouble. He is reserving in for Comer, and who's normally the BMW driver for WEC. Actually, both of the BMWs, himself and Artura, are reserving up from SWT to WEC. So if you're a fan of these drivers, then you'll definitely see him again next week when we're back here at Monza for SWT.
Whiplash starting to close in on Illusion a little bit, but then Sector 2 hit, and as he closed in, got closer and closer, then the dirty air started getting, started taking its effect, and that gap is over a second. But then the straights are going to come back, and we'll see him close. It kind of is like a slinky effect in that way, where on the straights you can close the gap within slipstream range. And something else I've noticed testing too is because everyone is running really, really low downforce on their wings, it actually makes the slipstream effect a lot less strong on the straights than it normally would be.
Most certainly. Now, while the clouds do look ominous, we don't have any rain, so we're not going to go ahead and see... We'll definitely see some tire changes, but we're definitely not going to see any wets or intermediates here in this race. But yeah, our Debris did lose a position to Nuko because he did have a 1 second penalty that he had to serve. Unfortunate there for the rookie driver, but overall he's had a pretty decent race. I mean, considering the car that was directly behind him is Nuko, who is a extremely rapid Frenchman. So, I mean, keeping him behind is no small feat.
Yeah, driver's champion in Nuko is never one to sleep on regardless of tire or circumstance. He's always going to be fast. And speaking of tire too, as we could look, Illusion and P1 is on the softs as well as Whiplash on the softs, and their wear is identical between the two of them. Nuko on the medium tire, so we're going to see some interesting strategies in a good handful of laps from now. When they start doing their pit stops, then we're really going to see the orange hold up, because these top guys are on different tires. Rick DeBee right behind him as well. Boita on the medium, and we know he can make those last a long time. Maybe a dark horse in the race today is Boita on those mediums.
Yeah, just taking a look through all the tires, and yeah, everybody is running either a medium or a soft tire compound. So we don't see anyone running the hards. I mean, we didn't really think we were going to see the hards anyway, just because of the amount of understeer that the hards have. So very interesting stuff from a lot of these drivers, but the idea of running on softs first was an interesting call, but for Whiplash and Illusion, it did play out pretty well for them. Although I will say, one thing I did notice while we were doing the tire checks is Whiplash is running dangerously low on that overtake already on lap 7.
Oh, Yuki making a move into turn 1 on go. There's a lot of contact between them into turn 1 there, but Yuki gets ahead. Yeah, that was unfortunate. They were battling on the straight as well, but then by the time they got into turn 1, it didn't look like anyone got pushed off or it was excessively dirty or anything, but that's kind of just how turn 1-2 is. A little bit of contact, and Gomez got the worst of it. Because Yuki gets really slippery on the exit there, but holds position.
Indeed. I mean, there's going to be a lot of overtaking happening on this track, and also especially because we have 44 laps around here at Monza. So we're definitely going to see some overtakes coming through. And Artura has a half-second penalty. Unfortunate there for the Dutch driver, substituting in for BMW here in WEC. And yeah, I don't see any other penalties, but we see the HCR of Declan maybe going to go and try to challenge the Porsche of Alex in front of him. We're going to go ahead and see if that's a battle that might happen soon. The gap is kind of closing.
Declan was in peaks, so something must have happened there.
Maybe a little bit of contact or just got to the gravel maybe. We'll have to see if he could go ahead and make a comeback through this pack. I believe he was one of the drivers running the medium tire compound. So we'll just definitely have to keep an eye on everything.
Yeah, both Declan and Alex both on the medium tire. Something I noticed too, a hallmark of a really competitive league is all the teammate pairings all really spread apart in the field right now. The closest pairing being Declan and Gomez in the high caliber cars, as Gomez gets a 5-second penalty as he's closing in, trying to battle Yuki once again, taking it back. But he will have that penalty to serve. That won't help his chances much for the time being.
Yeah, if you want to make like a good solid charge to try to get some solid points, and also to get to even potentially get a podium, you cannot get penalties. You have to keep it within the white lines, keep it within track limits, and basically you just gotta drive to absolute perfection. But sometimes, especially with how much momentum you carry into these corners, and particularly the Lesmos, then yeah, it's a lot easier said than done here around Monza.
Yeah, and in most leagues you can drive a little bit more conservatively, leave yourself some margin on the exits and the apexes so that you don't get those track limits. But when this competition is so strong, you have to push it to the absolute max that you can. You cannot leave yourself that margin to be a little safer with track limits. But then again, like you said, you can't afford those track limits either. So it's an extremely fine line. These guys are all on a tightrope right now. As our race leader, actually, with Whiplash closing in right on time, has a track limit penalty, and we'll see how badly that affects him, as Whiplash is closing in and has already used almost all of his overtake to try to stay within range of Illusion. Illusion on his overtake as well, but used significantly less.
Yeah, I mean, overtake is always something that we kind of talk about in these races, especially with a track with a lot of straight line speed and just one of the higher speed tracks that we're going to be racing on here. It's going to be a really good battle between Whiplash and Lucian. They get dicey as they go into the Parabolica now, but Lucian just has more speed as he goes way off track there into the Parabolica. Lucian's going to hold position, but I wonder if that's going to be another penalty there.
Penalty.
Yep, there it is. And Whiplash, the American driver in the brand new team, is going to go ahead and take the lead here of this race. But can he hold it is the question.
Yeah, it looked like it was going to be a good exit from Illusion, but Whiplash's car just a little too close for him to get the benefit of it. And now we're seeing him pull away a little bit. The Constantina effect, or the Octane effect as it is called. As you can see, this track is a really good example of that effect too. As you get into these braking zones, the cars get really, really close together, and then when the straights open up, they get farther apart again, and it's like a perception of type gap thing, where it's not the true gap is the distance, but the time.
Oh yeah, I mean, and also like corner exit and corner entry are two things that would definitely determine like race pace, because there's some corners that some drivers are a lot better at like entering, but they can't really nail the exit, and others are vice versa. But ideally you want the perfect mixture of entry pace and exit pace to go ahead and make the most of your lap. And right now Whiplash is building a very solid gap now to Illusion, but he goes off track too, so he's probably going to get a half-second penalty as well. We'll have to see here in a few moments' time if he gets a penalty similar to what Illusion got. And no, I think he just got away with it somehow.
Yeah, the exit of Parabolica is a weird one, that some of these corners are extra sensitive. The moment you even look at the track limit wrong, give you a penalty. But Parabolica is a lot less sensitive, it seems. As I've gone over that line multiple times and it not give you a penalty, but sometimes it does. And in this time, I guess it didn't. So good on Whiplash for not getting a penalty there. He did hit that sausage curb though, which is the worst part of that exit. If you hit that, it'll cost you a little bit of time.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
doesn't
especially
seem to hurt too bad.
yeah, especially with how low to the ground that these Super Formula cars are, depending on setup. And we see a position change here between the Porsches, between Alex and Boita. They're going to go ahead and swap positions and maybe let Alex going to go ahead and try to chase down our debris in the Mugen machine. I mean, I was going to be kind of curious to see if we're actually going to see some teams play here, as we're pretty much almost officially a quarter of the way done with this race. So, excellent stuff here from those drivers, keeping it clean for the most part. Aside from a few track limits penalties. Yuki, he's got one. I don't see any other ones on track at the moment. Actually, Fennec has one. The other Fox Sound Machinery currently in P13. He's got 1 second of penalties. But yeah, Whiplash he's making moves right now, but I think he already burned up all of his overtake. So I think, well, yeah, he's got the pace as it sits right now. Later on in the race, he is going to be hurting.
Absolutely, and I think that Illusion, if there's some sort of undercut window, when the pit stops start coming, I think we'll start to see the advantage start swing back to Illusion's favor. As right now, I think it'd probably be wise for him to not use very much overtake, because as we saw with Whiplash using up all of his overtake to try to stay close to Illusion, if you're in the dirty air, you're not going to close in even with the overtake.
Yeah, and I mean, especially because we're only like we're basically just at that 25% mark. As it says, we've officially completed a quarter of the first race of the season right now. But yeah, I mean, it's a long race, so you still got about another 45 minutes of racing, give or take. So burning all your overtake in the first quarter of the race is just not exactly the best strategy. You definitely you gotta be sparingly, or gotta use your overtake sparingly. You gotta mostly just try to even it out of it, and so that way, or you save it up all the way at the end for a massive hard charge to try to gain some positions on drivers who have either burnt all their overtake or are trying to conserve what little overtake they have left.
An Illusion in the pits. Now, I was actually just wondering when he was going to decide to do that, because that front left is starting to look bad, and that's when the understeer starts to set in heavily, is when that front left starts to come out of balance with the tire wear. And I'm very curious to see what tire he gets on now, and it is the medium. Now, based on what I've seen people saying about how long the mediums last, this should only amount to about laps 34 or 5. Not positive if the medium can make the full race distance from here.
If you're really gentle on the tires, you might be able to get it there, but those tires are going to be more cooked than a well-done steak at the end of this race. So it might be a two-stop for Illusion here in the Exo AMR machine. We'll just have to go ahead and see what other strategy stuff he's got cooking. But right now, he's got pace that's going to try to catch up to Declan, and he's going to be cooking on track.
Yeah, and Illusion should hope for his sake, too, that the guys in front of him start taking their pit stops too soon, because if not, he might start to run into traffic in that dirty air trying to catch up and everything. That's going to cost him a lot of race time relative to Whiplash, who is up there in clean air right now.
Oh, yeah, he is soaring away at this point, but we're going to go ahead and actually take a look. Yep, he's out of overtake, and now actually Whiplash is coming into the pits. He's probably going to also switch to a medium, but maybe we'll see him switch to a hard. We'll see as Nuko re-inherits the lead of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, absolutely. The gap for Nuke about 5 seconds when Whiplash went into the pits. So now when Nuko comes out of the pits, whenever he decides to go in, and we see what the gap between Nuko and Whiplash is, that will roughly be how much time we saved or lost based on just the pit intervals they chose.
Indeed.
We'll keep an eye on that, and remember 5 seconds was the gap.
Yeah, and also it's definitely the undercut has definitely worked out for Illusion here, as he's up into P4 now, and he's ahead of the former race leader of Whiplash, and there's one car in between them, and that is the high caliber racing machine of Declan. So he's got to make a hard charge all the way to Illusion. But Illusion's on that fresher tire compound, so Illusion is going to likely just drive off into the sunset as he's chasing the Porsche of Nicholas Boita.
Yeah, and so Illusion undercut Whiplash by only about one lap, and that was worth about 4 seconds just in that one lap of undercut. So yeah, that worked out wonderfully for Illusion as he is in net P1 right now.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, the 3 cars in front of him still got a pit.
As Boita goes really wide on Parabolica.
You know, he may get a penalty. Now, it's usually like a coin flip, whether we see like a penalty or not. And this time, it did not get a penalty for the Brazilian driver. Yeah, because talking about the Parabolica penalties earlier, Illusion got hit with one, but Whiplash and Boita didn't. So it's definitely a coin flip whether you're going to get a penalty around that corner or not.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I know that sometimes the track limits, it tries to account for like how fast you're going, or if it thinks that you gained time or not by going over the track limit. Maybe it's a certain point in the corner where it stops monitoring the track limit, because maybe Whiplash and maybe they went off a little bit later in the corner than Illusion did. That's my guess at the moment.
Yeah, I'm sure there's probably some lines of code or some trigger points, maybe some collision volumes of like where, oh yeah, this is a penalty, or yeah, it's, I don't know the exact science behind it, but we can always assume. But one thing that is going to be very easy to assume is that Illusion is going to make a hard charge against Boita and overtake him within this lap or the following lap. He just set a personal best lap, not enough to overtake Whiplash's fastest lap of the race, and we might even see him move going into turn 1. But Illusion is going to try to stick it around the outside, a little bit of contact there with Boita, but they both get through clean, and Illusion is up a spot.
Yeah, a bit of contact, but that's pretty much as clean as you can get through turn 1 when it's a tough battle going through there. Neither driver wants to yield, give up track position. Yeah, quite the charge Illusion's on right now with those brand new mediums working wonders for him right now. And the medium is a really racy tire, despite it being about 1 second slower per lap. It doesn't feel very bad. It feels like grippy and confident. You can battle with those tires.
Yeah, because, well, granted, it doesn't have the same amount of like tire grip as the soft tire compound. It makes up for it by having a better tire life. So you can't take more risks because you know that tire can take more damage.
Yes, indeed. I see Whiplash taking P5 off of Declan going through Ascari, another very dangerous place to try to overtake, but one of the most opportunistic places that you can. But it's also one of those places where you go wheel good through there, it's very likely one of you is not making it to the other side of that. They'd make it clean.
Yeah, that seems like a really common trend on this track. Is there's 3 different chicanes here that are very deadly to go ahead and try to make a move in. I mean, you have the turn 1 chicane, Prima Variante. I probably butchered that pronunciation, so don't execute me, Italians. But then you have the chicane going into the Lesmos. We know that's a very dangerous chicane as well, over at the beginning of Sector 2. And then, like you mentioned, Ascari is a very optimistic place to overtake. But I think so far we've seen overtakes in 2 out of those 3 chicanes. So it just shows you like how confident these drivers are going into that corner.
Oh, Declan gets really squirrely there, all spinning out. But yeah, this is everything about this track is a double-edged sword. As far as like the most opportunistic places to make a move are by far the most dangerous places to make a move as well. And then you got just the nature of the track itself. Even when you're by yourself on track, it's a double-edged sword, as it super long straights and then tight low-speed course too. So it's like, what do you optimize your car for? Go fast straight or low-speed corner performance? everything is a double-edged sword here, and there's always a compromise that goes along with the benefit we find.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, like you mentioned, I agree. This track is definitely a double-edged sword. There's a lot of good overtaking opportunities, but also a lot of dangerous ones. But it's high risk, high reward, especially when you're trying to get an overtake into the chicanes like we saw with Lujan and Boita. So, I mean, if you get it right, it pays off dividends. But if you get it wrong, it's over. That basically just ruined your whole race. You're going to have damage, you're going to have to go back to the pits, get it fixed. But yeah.
Oh, yeah. Heavy damage on, by the way, everyone. This is, like most series that we've been commentating on recently, the top class of GPL is heavy damage on. So if they take any damage to their car, it does not fix itself unless they take an additional pit stop and have the pit crew fix it right there.
Although, I will comment that, they are really quick when it comes to actually fixing that damage, so... But it's still a few extra seconds in the pits that you do not really want to spend. Ideally, when you go into pit stop, you just want to change tires, maybe get a little splash of fuel, and then you want to go right back out onto the racetrack. But also...
Yeah, the act of...
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. The act of changing the tires itself will have you stopped in the pits for about 4 or 5 seconds. But if you have heavy damage and you're getting that fixed, that's an additional 6 seconds of being completely stopped, and that can be hugely detrimental.
Indeed, yeah. I mean, especially on some tracks that have like those abysmally long like pit stops, like Spa is a good example. Monza is pretty quick compared to some of the other tracks. Spa's the big
Brazil.
one, because Brazil, yeah, Brazil is also pretty rough when it comes to how long those pit stops take. I'm trying to think of some tracks that really don't have bad ones. To the penultimate round of the season, we're going to Tokyo Expressway. That pit lane isn't too bad.
Yeah, I think some of the better pit stops is like here and like Barcelona, perhaps Tokyo as well.
Yeah, so I mean, and even then, pit stops in Gran Turismo, they do take a hot minute. It's a lot longer than, say, like F1 or some other racing games out there where basically you could just change tires and get out within like 15 seconds. We're seeing some comments in chat saying that Alex might actually be on track to winning this race here.
Interesting. That would be, would be incredible, honestly. I'd be very, very impressed.
He might set an unofficial record for having the lowest sportsmanship rating and still winning a race.
Yeah, I mean, like, as we say, I mean, we make fun a little bit here and there with the incidents and the driver, the sportsmanship rating, all that, but at the end of the day, his pace is undeniable. He is an extremely fast driver. He shows that in every quali session he does, and now he's showing that in the race today. And luckily today, usually he's on a recovery drive where he is impressive in recovery, but look at what he can do when he doesn't have to recover the positions. He's up into P2 in a really good spot, taking good care of the tires.
Indeed, yeah, and also, like we mentioned, we do like to poke fun here and there. However, I don't think anyone will ever get clowned as badly as I did the one time I raced for a GT3 league in Gran Turismo 7. The less we talk about that, the better. But let's just say I became an actual meme for how abysmal that performance was.
Well.
In my defense,
well, at least we got you in the booth, at least, yeah.
In my defense, I was thrown into 650S GT3, a car I haven't driven since GT Sport, and also the car is garbage at the time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's one of the cars that shifted performance very dramatically, up and down.
Yeah, I was trying to look for a battle here on track, but oh, we have Boita coming into the pits. He's shedding those medium tires. And we saw also in chat that the medium to medium one stop might be the call for this race here. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. It's super possible. I actually saw that being mentioned as one of the more optimal strategies. I was seeing some people discuss either um, 3 sets of soft or 2 sets of mediums. And 2 sets of mediums sounds like a really good way to go. It's kind of surprising to see Boita being the first one of the medium runners to take his pit stop. But then again, it seems like he knows exactly what he's doing as he's getting a bit of an undercut here. He's already battling with Gomez on track, about to take that position, going into the second chicane on the track, and he takes it quickly and decisively as Gomez's tires are suffering.
Yeah, I mean, that wasn't really much of a challenge there from Gomez, and he didn't even really try to fight a lot. He's like, all right, I know I don't have the tires. I don't have the pace. I'm not going to fight this. I'm not going to risk, taking us both out. So I'm just going to let him go. And honestly, that was the smart thing to do because, I mean, his tires are charcoal now at this point, I am certain. So actually, let's find out.
I'd expect
that
to see a
front
lot of
left.
pit stops starting soon.
Yeah, that front left is not looking super great. Looks like a hot dog you kind of left on the campfire a bit too long.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we're going to start seeing a lot of pit stops, and then we'll really see, too, how much of an advantage Boita gains from pitting a little bit earlier, as he is right now undercutting the entire field who is yet to pit from their mediums.
I also saw a joke in chat that says, soft to soft to soft to soft to soft sounds reasonable.
I mean,
if you could pull that off, then kudos to you.
Tires. Yeah. You wouldn't have to worry about tires very much if you did that. No need to manage. Oh, as Illusion is beginning to close the gap on Alex, they can see each other. They are within range. Illusion is getting bigger and bigger in Alex's mirrors now. He is on the overtake as well, so he is not afraid to use that to get back into P2, as he only has about a quarter of his overtake left. Alex pretty much empty with his overtake. Nuko seems to be on his overtake a little bit too in P1 there with about half of his remaining. There goes Alex into the pits. And now Illusion has been unleashed into the free air.
As he goes to chase down Nuko. But will he be able to catch up to Nuko in time? I think, but do you think Nuko waited too long to make his pit stop? That's the question here.
Perhaps that could be the case for sure, because he probably is losing lap time to Illusion here. Yeah, definitely. Probably about half a second per lap he was losing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so if that trend continues, it should be about 10 laps or less for him to close, because I imagine that difference is going to continue to increase the longer Nuko waits. So maybe 6, 7, 8 laps, we'll see. Illusions start to be right there. Unless, of course, Nuko pits before then, which I'm assuming he probably will. That would be wise.
Yeah, we'll just definitely have to see how the strategy plays out here. I believe Nuko might be one of the few drivers who has yet to pit in this race. I know there's a few others on track, but out of our top 6, he is the only one who has yet to pit in.
Yeah, we got Nuko, Declan, Gomez, flaring aces.
Well, Nuko just hopped on into the pits.
Man. Okay. As expected, I figured he'd go in there. Artur is in the pits as well. So a few drivers left have yet to pit. Oh, as Declan comes in, so that only leaves Gomez and flaring aces as they're about to, go around Parabolica for the final time here on the lap. They probably go into the pits. Oh, Gomez stays out.
And so does Aces.
Tour, as well as flaring aces. Interesting.
Yeah, that's a interesting. I'm gonna actually compare their tires.
Yeah, so Gomez seeing a teammate come out in front of him on the newer set. Yeah,
just looking at these tires. I mean, well, there's very minimal difference between Ace's tires and Gomez. So they're pretty much, they have about the exact same amount of tire wear. Very minor differences. I think Gomez did burn up the fronts a bit more, and Ace's burned the backs a bit more, but overall, tires are pretty much in the same condition for both Gomez and Ace's. So, I mean, maybe they're going to try to maybe make it to lap 30, then try a soft tire, but that's pretty risky business if you ask me.
Absolutely.
Yeah, indeed. Our Debris hasn't had the cleanest of races, unfortunately. He's dropped down the order quite a bit. He's now sitting in P10, but like a lot of these cars kind of just like in the midfield. He's just kind of in the middle of nowhere, essentially. He's not close enough to really fight against Yuki, and Iceman is quite a ways behind him.
Yeah, and I'm looking at his lap times here, and they're really solid lap times up and down the board. And then lap 19 and 20, I see a 46 and a 40 lap time. So something must have happened there. He either went off or he crashed, something like that, because he was having a really, really solid race, vying for good points positions. And now he's here in P10 with big gates front and behind. So he's kind of just running his own race in no man's land at this point. But it was still a strong showing overall, I'd say, for the Dutch rookie.
I mean, yeah, it's his first like full race in the WEC for Grand Prestige League. His first ever outing in this league was that preseason sprint doubleheader that we had, and he dominated there. But unfortunately, Monza might just not have been his track, because we know there's some drivers that just tend to struggle at some tracks more than others.
Absolutely. And I believe he was Rick Debris did race in earlier seasons, so he's a rookie in the sense that Fernando Alonso was a rookie when he came back to F1. But I've never seen him yet since I've been in the league, so he's a rookie to me. It's been a while. We'll give him that title again.
Yep, it's a Canada event. He's a rookie again.
Absolutely. As just kind of taking a look up and down the grid, we got Gomez finally getting into the pits to shed those demolished tires. RIP to the mediums. It was great while it lasted.
Those tires are so destroyed that you could probably grate cheese on them at this point. But it's definitely a good thing that he went back onto yet another set of mediums. So this might have been the one-stop double medium strut that we were seeing in chat earlier.
Absolutely. As he's got the cheese grater livery on too, so that's might not be the greatest thing for the tires, Swiss cheesing them up like that.
I don't think I would have, like, when I woke up this morning, I don't think I was expecting to hear something getting Swiss cheesed in a racing esports commentary, but, you know, I love it. You know what, speaking of things that are slightly out of pocket, so I'm sure you're aware of the, stereotypical Italian hand gesture, right?
Oh, of course, it's my favorite.
Have you noticed that, like, from an angle, Monza looks like that exact hand gesture?
Hey, I mean, what can I say? Absolutely. It's only fitting. It's Italy, you know. You gotta do Italian things when you're in Italy. Monza is no exception.
Yeah, I've seen some very out-of-pocket, track analogies just in my time. Someone told me that, Barcelona looked like a seahorse, and I cannot unsee it now.
Oh man, yeah. Now I'm gonna have to take a look at it now, and if I see that, I don't know how I'll feel about it.
Yeah. And then also a joke I made with some other people was that the Qatar circuit or Losail over in the Middle East, that track looks like a barnacle.
Oh yeah, the one I've seen super constantly is the of course Las Vegas, looking like an upside down pig.
Yeah, I mean, I can see it. But Vegas also is a pretty fun track. I commentated for it last night, actually, and it was raining and it was a lot of chaos. So, viva Las Vegas, baby.
it would be great to have some new tracks in Gran Turismo, and I doubt that one would ever be an option, but it would be
Probably
great
not.
to see some tracks like that. Something I'm surprised that we never got is something like Silverstone. Like, I would assume we'd have Silverstone.
Just some tracks I think would be the. Alright, English did not work too well there. Some tracks that I would like to see that would make sense, and it'd be also really fun to have GPL races there. I'm thinking like, if we're adding just more tracks in like Europe, I'm thinking like Paul Ricard, Silverstone, Donington Park. Those are some tracks over in Europe that'd be good. I could yap about American tracks all day, every day. Like, you know, you got Sebring, you got Circuit of the Americas, which I swear if I hear that, oh, it was in the data mine, like one more time about Coda, I am probably going to lose my marbles. Also, Portimao, the Algarve circuit in Portugal was also in the files, but...
Yeah, that would make Comer happy. Maybe Comer would actually race if we had that one.
Yeah, we're just checking on the tire life, and they are borderline identical for Illusion and Whiplash right now. Almost identical tire life, but not so identical overtake meter.
Oh, Artura and Alex are having a battle, even though it's not for direct position, but Artura gets past Alex. As I note, I didn't see what happened to Alex. He is losing a lot of speed and positions right now. He has front and rear wing damage. And he's losing so much time right now on track. He just lost 2 positions. He's about to lose the 3rd. He might have to pit just to stop the lap time bleeding as he does go into the pits to get that repaired.
Yeah, he had front and rear wing damage. Unfortunate there for the German driver. And speaking of Germany, we can see Hockenheim eventually, and that'd be pretty neat. But what's not neat is having front and rear wing damage. That just kind of ruins almost your entire race.
Yeah, that's bad. And we were just giving him so many props too for being up there. I think his P3, P4 range, like having an excellent race. It's all coming in. Stu exactly did it. We saw the aftermath and we saw the consequences. Multiple positions lost on track, then having to pit on top of that, losing 2 more positions to Yuki and Flaring Aces. Yuki also, by the way, closing in pretty close to Flaring Aces right now. The gap is under a second, so we'll see if he can close that in and try to make a move here on track. Every point counts.
Yeah, I mean, especially because, I mean, that's a really good run up to the Ascari chicane, so maybe in the Ascari chicane, but if not, definitely the straight going into Parabolica or coming out to Parabolica. I do think we're going to go and see the move. They're getting really close right now, so not in Ascari, but definitely very soon. Probably even going into Parabolica, we might see a move. As Flaring Aces plays defensive, but Yuki does switch to the inside. He's going to go for the move. Never mind, he's going to wait. Oh, they're going side by side. The inside line for Yuki, and he gets the move done. Yuki is up into P6.
That was all confidence right there. That was someone who it looked like probably braked a little bit too late, Flaring Aces, and Yuki just being patient, being confident, and was in a perfect position to take that place off him with a good drive through the inside line, and he maintains it through the straight and turn 1-2 chicane there. And now there's a bit of gap opening up, just enough of a gap to where Flaring Aces is going to get the absolute worst of the air effect within this range. So I see Yuki holding this position now.
Indeed, I mean, he's just got excellent pace too. Just in like the first sector of the lap, he's already pulled up about a 1.3 second gap, almost a second and a half, and Aces must have had a mistake because now it's at almost 2 seconds, 1.7 seconds ahead now, just in the span of a few corners. So Yuki just does have that race pace and that EXO AMR machine. And yeah, he's just cooking right now. Let Yuki cook.
Yeah, it's a strong car he's in. He's making the most of it right now.
Yeah, but now he's got a massive hard charge to get to the high caliber racing machine of Declan Spillane.
Yeah, and it looks like Declan is going to have a little bit of traffic ahead of him too as he continues this distance. The car in front of Declan now is Artura in P14 as he gets squirrely coming out of the exit at the turn 1-2 chicane.
Yeah, indeed. We're seeing some really solid race pace from a lot of these drivers here, but yeah, I mean, traffic. I mean, we saw traffic kind of throw a wrench into the works of Alex, the Porsche not having the greatest of times around this track. But we did see that traffic can go ahead and play a major factor in this race. So maybe Declan can go ahead and potentially run into some problems as he's up against Yuki. Or, sorry, that's Artura. Wrong car. They don't even look the same. I was reading Yuki's name in the process. But yeah, Declan is going to run into some traffic. We'll see if he can get past it. And I mean, hopefully he doesn't befall the same fate as Alex, where traffic kind of caused him to lose quite a few positions.
Yeah, and this is a really detrimental type of thing to have lapped car in front of you giving you all this dirty air. And as you can see, like we know that Declan is a really fast driver, and he definitely would have the pace on Artura, but that he's struggling to close distance. So that the air just makes it so hard, especially through sector 2 and 3. But here's he gets aside there now and lets Declan through. Very clean, very good spot to do it too. Respectful driving. And it's been a pretty anonymous race from the other Dutchman. There's a lot of Dutch drivers here. But you don't know, having a very solid, very quiet race. But what I'm noticing is his consistency. And that's kind of what he's always known for, is just being a really solid, consistent, type of driver. Just super clean at all times. And he's doing that again today. And it looks like he's taking good care of those tires, too.
Indeed, yeah. Tire management is always key around this track, especially because this track isn't really super hard on tires compared to, like, Barcelona or Interlagos, but if you can make a one-stop work on this track, then it's going to do numbers.
Oh, P1 and P2 in the pits right now. Our race leader, Illusion, coming into the pits for the second time. So it is a two-stop for both Illusion and Whiplash. He's back on the soft tire, of course. He can make that last to the rest of the race. And he's going to be pushing now. I think he's got this race in the bag now based on that.
Indeed. All he has to do is just keep his nose clean and just bring the car home in one piece. That's all he's got to do.
Maintaining an excellent pace throughout the whole entire lap. I have kind of a glitch on my screen when I look at his lap times. It says he pitted 6 laps in a row. I know he didn't do that, but really race pace from Illusion.
On my screen, it shows 3 laps in a row that he pitted, so it is just a common bug in Gran Turismo. Sometimes, like, it actually shows up for me on Illusion too. It shows that Illusion pitted in on lap 26, 27, and 28 all in a row. So, if you're a P6 or a P2
strategy,
if you're a P2 and you pitted in 3 times, like 3 laps in a row, then that is absolutely perfect. But
yeah,
I mean, we did see a strat. We did see a joke strat of 5 different sets of soft tires being used. So maybe replicating, I think it was referred to as the Comer strategy.
Oh yeah, so it looks like Illusion actually using that strategy to effect. Okay,
Indeed.
Now that glitch went away on my screen.
It's still there on my screen, but doesn't really affect anything gameplay wise, so I'm not super concerned about it. But so Nuko does have to be concerned about traffic because our debris, or sorry, that was Iceman. He just decided, like, you know what? I got a blue flag. I'm gonna adhere to said blue flag and just get out of Dodge. Ooh, who's this battling up here?
Between P2 and P1 is very stable. It's not really increasing or decreasing, but it is about 9 seconds, and that is within the amount of time that you would lose from taking a pit stop. Though Nuko actually, he's medium tire, so he's probably going for a one stop. I was assuming that Illusion is in net P1, thinking that Nuko is going to have to take another stop as well. But I actually don't think he will. So Illusion is actually going to have to close this gap and take position on track in order to win this race. So that actually changes the story completely here. Nuko might be on pace to win this right now.
Indeed. And I mean, Nuko has had a very solid race, you know. Keeping it clean, keeping good consistency, taking care of those tires. And we kind of figured that, especially with like basically the door to like infinite strategies blown wide open, is that we're going to see some different strategies and some are going to work more than others. And right now, a strategy found very early on in the chat was that the medium to medium one stop is working, but Illusion is actually closing that gap up to Nuko a bit there. He gained about a second, I think, on the last lap or so. So maybe we'll see a battle here right at the end. Yeah, he actually was just under a second faster on that last lap. A 127.8 versus a 128.7.
All right, and it should be clear to Illusion within the next lap or so that Nuko is probably not going to take another pit stop and that he will have to close this gap as quickly as possible. He has less than 10 laps to do it, and it's a pretty sizable gap. It's doable, but it's a sizable gap.
I mean, anything is possible, especially in racing, so never say never. But yeah, I mean, even then, let's say even if Illusion does have that pace and catches up to Nuko, right? He's got to get past Nuko. He can't just, you know, go up behind him and say, okay, yep, I did what I need to do. He needs to put that XO AMR ahead of the Toyota. That is exactly what he needs to do here. And he just needs to make it stick. Because otherwise, you know, you can get right behind him, but it's not going to matter the checkered flag. So Nuko is going to have to put on a very solid defense to go ahead and keep his lead from Illusion.
Exactly, yeah. As they say, catching is one thing, passing is another, and Nuko is really good at wheel-to-wheel combat as well. He's a well-known entity in that regard. And this gap is coming down, but is it coming down quickly enough? We'll have to see here in the next few laps. We'll probably get a good idea of if the pace or if the rate of closing is going to be quick enough. As he is on a purple lap right now, though, so he knows what the assessment is. He knows exactly what to do. He's using his overtake as well, getting past the lap, not letting the dirty air affect him too much, hopefully. And now he's back into clean air.
Indeed, yeah. And also, I got a comment in chat asking about overtake. Nuko does have more overtake than Illusion does, so even if it does come down to like a battle in the closing moments of the race, then Nuko could just burn his overtake whenever Illusion tries to pass him. So that is definitely something we might see here towards the closing stages of this Grand Prix. We're going to go ahead and see if there's any other close battles here on track. Paco does have a half-second penalty. But yeah, this gap is closing down quite considerably. Actually, Illusion was exactly, or very close to exactly, but he was a second faster on the last lap to Nuko. So it might be a battle between France and Norway here in the closing stages of this race, B23.
I'm trying to do the math in my head real quick. As he's on another purple lap, I can't believe what I'm seeing right now from the pace. Like, those tires are in the perfect window, too. And he just did 2, and it looks like he's on his 3rd in a row. Sub 27 lap time in race trim. That's extremely impressive lap time. Like, ridiculous lap time, to be honest.
Oh, yeah. I mean, very impressive stuff. I mean, I don't think even on my best day in full qualifying trim I could hit a 126 on this track, so exceptional stuff from a lot of these drivers.
I've been training this track relentlessly, and on my very best lap, I'm not sure I can get within a second of what he just did.
That is...
He's making...
incredible.
Yeah, and so and that's a purple lap again from Illusion, as his pace is not slowing down at all. And you know, we mentioned in the preseason that the full tuning is, and that you asked me if there was any drivers that would favor. The very first person that came to mind was Nuko, because Nuko is super sensitive with his setups, and he has a very specific setup style that differs from the rest of the field usually. And so I just knew that we were going to see something special out of Nuko as soon as full tuning made its return here to GPL.
Indeed, yeah, because I mean, I know some drivers don't really like the default setup, especially when you throw bouncy performance into the mix. It can make some cars just it can make some, or like just some drivers just not happy with the car, especially like because there's different bouncy performance types. You got, you know, the high speed, the low speed, and then the mid speed. So basically like high downforce, low downforce, and then 50-50. But I do feel like that drivers who are able to tune their cars can tune the car specifically to their driving style, and then overall just get way more pace out of the cars than they would have previously. But now, Illusion is about a second or 1.2 seconds faster on lap 37. We'll see where lap 31 or lap 38
you can
hits.
see him now.
Oh, they're within striking distance of each other.
So now that he can see him visually, there is something mental that does to a driver. When you can see your opponent, you're not just chasing a number on your screen anymore. You see the guy in front of you. You know exactly how far it is. You know how to close that gap. It just gives you an extra little gear when you can actually see your opponent.
Yeah, and definitely, like, if I was Nuko, seeing Illusion just rapidly approaching on the timing table would be slightly unnerving, but we'll see if he can hold him off here towards the end. You got about 5.5 laps left of this race here in Monza, so we're gonna definitely see sooner rather than later if Illusion could go ahead and fully close that gap to Nuko up ahead.
Yeah, exactly. And based on the amount of laps remaining, it's going to have to be perfect from Illusion in order for him to not only catch but pass. He's going to have to do it like immediately, like within a corner or two of catching Nuko. And yeah, now the gap's down to 3.5 just about seconds. Like, we're going to see ideally a last lap battle for the, as Illusion is approaching another lapped car, though. Hopefully this doesn't play too big of a factor in the battle, as it looks like the distance between them is just enough to where the lapped car of Idono might still be ahead of Illusion by the time they start to get into the corners, and that will be very detrimental to Illusion's ability to close that gap.
Yeah, by the time he gets to that lapped car up ahead, he definitely does not want to, he wants to be on a straight. So, I mean, ideally you want to kind of do it now. Now would be the best time for Ducadona to really do it, because by the time you get to the Lesmos, it is so impossible to kind of just let a car go through. But yep, there he goes. He slowed down right before the Lesmos and then just let Illusion through. So Illusion is not going to get impeded by that car, but there is another lapped car ahead of him, and that might go ahead and impede his progress. So we'll have to see how it goes, although he is coming up to the straights leading into Ascari. So if he can get the move done before the Ascari chicane, then he'll be in a lot better position and he won't really get held up. But if he's still behind Fennec at the time he gets to that Ascari chicane, it might make things a little difficult.
Absolutely, yeah. And yeah, good on Ducky Dono for getting aside there, because that was the best place for Illusion to not have Ducky Dono affect the result of the race at the top of the charts here, even though it was to his own detriment, as Illusion keeps going really wide there at Parabolica for several laps in a row. He's got to be careful with that. Either that or he knows exactly where the game is monitoring and not monitoring track limits on that corner, because he gets away with another one 2 or 3 laps in a row now of him going wide at Parabolica. He's really maximizing the exit speed of Parabolica, which is where you can lose a lot of speed if you don't do it perfectly.
Oh yeah, and I mean, these drivers put so much time into this track, and actually any track they're about to go to, so you know that they're going to go ahead and find like exactly what they can and can't get away with. Can we see tire wear? Yes, you certainly can. We'll go ahead and pull that information up.
Yeah, and another thing I'm noticing too is the fuel consumption. I don't think it will run out, but Illusion has got the lowest amount of fuel out of the top 3 guys here. And so hopefully that doesn't factor into the results either.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to have to see how these final 3.5 laps play out here. Nuko, I think he might just be holding on long enough to not let Illusion overtake, so he might have a chance of winning this. It's going to be tricky.
And so Illusion's pace is now starting to decline as the tire wear is setting in. His tires are just exiting the optimal temperature operating window, and so the rate of that gap closing should slow down a little bit now, and that's not good for Illusion. That's really good for Nuko. He's probably feeling more and more confident as the laps roll out to the final one. On a little bit of overtake as well to maintain the gap as long as he possibly can as he goes around Curva Grande here in that Toyota.
Yeah, Nuko does have more overtake compared to Illusion, so he did have that little bit of advantage now, but like you said, yeah, those tires are just running out of their operating window, and now I think we might actually be seeing Nuko maybe starting to form a gap here at some points on track. He is going to have the better tire for this stage of the race. He's got, there's 3 laps left of this race, and for Nuko and Illusion, it's about 2.5. So that opportunity, the window of opportunity is closing ever so slightly.
Yeah, at this point now, I think it'll have to be a mistake from Nuko at this point, I think, for Illusion to have a really, really good chance at it. The gap is still closing, but not nearly as quickly anymore. The rate of closing that gap has slowed tremendously.
And I think it actually, I think the gap actually extended there for a little bit shortly after the Ascari chicane. So, yeah, I mean, that gap is kind of fluctuating. I mean, it's staying pretty consistent as it sits. Nuko is going to go ahead and definitely start burning some of that overtake. He's only got 2 laps left. So, I mean, he's got to basically, it's make or break here right now for these top 2 drivers between Nuko and Illusion. This is basically, if Nuko keeps it clean and just keeps his pace consistent, then he wins the race. If he makes a mistake, then Illusion is going to go ahead and take a win here in Monza. But it's basically both these drivers got to be absolutely perfect to not mess up their chances of taking a win here today.
Absolutely, and it was a strategy win too if Nuko takes it, because it does seem like that medium to medium one stop might have been the superior strategy today.
Possibly. Possibly indeed. I mean, that gap did close, quite a bit. As we see, a very spicy message in game chat at the moment.
Yeah.
Alex not exactly happy with one of the other drivers. Didn't see what
happened there, but Alex is very upset with Declan there in P6. It does look like they're together on track, and it was track position, whatever it was that happened between them. Oh, and yeah, Declan is really low on fuel. He's got like no fuel. There's actually a really good chance that he could run out of fuel on the final lap of the race, and that would be just terrible.
That would be heartbreaking for the exo high caliber driver of Declan. Yeah, but right now we are on the final lap of this race. Lap 44 out of 44. It's a 1.5 second gap between Nuko and Illusion. Can Illusion go ahead and take it? I mean, you got to basically make it through this last lap, and then you're in the promised land of that top spot of the podium. Oh, but there's a half-second penalty for Illusion! And that's his chance of winning this race. Done and dusted.
Oh, man, yeah. And it did look like the gap was going to be just a little too much, but there's still a chance as he was closing, but now no chance. As they're coming up to Ascari, and right after Ascari is where Illusion will have to serve that penalty. and then it's game over from there. And the gap behind him is big enough to where he doesn't really have to worry about Whiplash taking the position or anything. But there goes his chances of the win right there.
Yep, so all he's got to do is just nail Parabolica without incident, and then Nuko, the driver's champion from last season, is going to come across the line and take the checkered flag here in Monza. Nuko wins the first round of the World Elite Championship here at Grand Prestige League, followed by Illusion, and then followed by Whiplash, and that is round 1 complete.
That was a great showing, a really good strategic race too. I like seeing that. So what an excellent top 3 here to see. Hey, my top 3 prediction was correct as well. We got Whiplash and P3 round off the podium, and we got Boita here, P4, which is his natural position. That's where he almost always finishes from last season and the season before. He just loved P4. That is his natural habitat. Yuki as well, P5, a very solid recovery performance. He was up and down the grid, but he found a way to get a solid point scoring position out of it. Oh, and it does look like Declan ran out of gas as Arturo is helping him out. Arturo is pushing him along. That's very kind from Arturo, whose race is already finished.
I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. That's like the one scene from the first Cars movie where Lightning McQueen is just pushing the king across the line. That is exactly what we're seeing here on the last lap of this race. And with no fuel remaining, Declan finishes in P9. Now, GPL so far this season, and even in the preseason, has shown some very interesting things. But we'll get to that in a moment. Nuko takes the race win from pole position to checkered flag. A very solid win there for the Toyota driver.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super impressed with the drive and the poise that he showed with that gap management at the end of the race there. Like, it is not easy when you see that gap in P1 too, so the heartbeat and everything is going crazy. You got one of the fastest drivers that this league has ever seen behind closing the gap at a really steady and quick pace. And yet he held on, so that shows tremendous poise and good driving, not making any mistakes. I didn't see any track limit penalties in that final stint there. So an excellent drive, not to put a foot wrong there. And a wonderful first win of the season for Nuko.
Indeed, that is a beautiful drive there from the French driver racing for Toyota. But yeah, so we're going to go ahead and give you guys the rundown of our finishing positions here in the first race of the season. We have Nuko and Illusion also taking the fastest lap with him, followed by Whiplash, Boita, Yuki, Alex, Paco, Eric's. That rounds up our top 8. Going to the next slide, we have Declan Spillane, Fennec, Ducadono, Iceman, Arturo, and Artebri, who actually DNF'd. I think we saw him disconnect a few laps ago.
Oh yeah, I didn't even notice when he did that. It was late in the race too. That's too bad.
Yeah, so I'm not sure what happened there, but that is our finishing position. So, B23, what were your thoughts on this race in general? Give us a quick summary.
Well, you know, I was really surprised that the medium tire, the medium to medium, was the correct strat as it looked to be, because Illusion definitely had the best pace on track when it came to the total overall race times as laps, but it just wasn't enough to overcome the strategy decision that Nuko made. Nuko, not known for his tire whippering, but he did a really, really good job at managing those tires. So he's really improved that aspect of his game, and it bared fruit today with a victory.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, a very solid result for the beginning of the season. P1. He didn't quite get fastest lap though, so not quite the Grand Slam, but it was pretty close. Also, Whiplash had a pretty solid drive there too, getting P3 in this race. Good stuff there from the American driver. Lujan was on such a recovery drive, but I think that half-second penalty kind of did him in, so unfortunate there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to next week when we do this track again, but this time with the SWT grid.
Yeah, I'll be racing in the grid. I won't be in the booth, but I believe Illusion will be the co-comment next week for the SWT race here at Monza. And I absolutely can't wait to experience it for myself on track and to hear you guys doing your thing in the commentary booth.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. Illusion and I are going to have a blast up here watching you guys race, just like we had a blast watching these very talented drivers have a go at Monza here today.
Absolutely, yeah. So until next time, everyone, just make sure that if you're here still, you like and subscribe to this YouTube channel here so that you don't miss the stream next week. It'll be same time next Sunday. And go ahead and give us a follow on Instagram at Grand Prestige League to get updates on the standings and the upcoming settings and everything you need to know for what we got going on for the rest of the season.
All right, with that being said, my name is Ruckus, and alongside me was B23, and we will see you guys next time at Monza once again for SWT. Take care, everyone.